Everybody, it's your main man, Anthony Brogdon, coming at you strongly, strongest, and in my best way possible with a lady out of Florida, good looking sister. She jamming. Oh man, you're gonna like this story. Oh, this is something that happened to her personally. All right, and then her efforts as a result of things that have happened to her to help other people, in particular from a Black history standpoint. And this is what we do here. So come on now, hit the subscribe button on Strong Inspirations. You know I don't give it to you, but not straight no chaser. I just try to intoxicate your mind with good Black history and wellness through the people that come on the show. I do my best to ask intelligent questions. And then also, my friends, hit the like button on this video, because I know you're going to like it a lot. Hit the notifications bell. When the videos come out, you get a ding, a shock. Something lets you know that there is more content, new content. And I'm trying to upload at least 1 or 2 a week. And we jam. We over 500 videos. We're coming up on the 3-year anniversary. This is something that will happen from now on, because I enjoy giving this to you. I enjoy talking to these people. Some of them, all of them touch me for sure for what they do. And this lady will also. Watch. I'm not playing with you, my friends. I want you to get this. I want to inspire you and educate you and in some form entertain you. As you may know, I'm a filmmaker, everybody. This is the DVD to the documentary I've done. It's on Amazon. And what happened was I somehow stumbled across the fact that there were enslaved Black folks who owned businesses. And it blew my mind. I had never known, they didn't teach me that in school. That would have messed me up and made me a better student, maybe. How about that? And so when I found that out, I did more research and I did this documentary. Come on and watch it. It's on Amazon. And then I took it one step further and I wrote this book, Black Business Book. You got to get you a copy of this. I got 31 rich Black people who lived in the 1800s in the book. I tell you what their name, what they did, how they did it, how wealthy they became, and many of them bought their freedom. And it's so much more. I tell you what them racists did to destroy Black business districts. For example, there's a whole chapter on how they ran freeways. They did it here in Detroit, right through the Black Bottom district, just demolished it all. And it was intentional. And they did it throughout America. And that's just another part of what's in this book. So get you a copy. I promise you that you're going to learn something new. And if you don't, send me a message and I'll send your money back. A book with a money back guarantee. Here it is. And it's very reasonably priced because I want many people to be able to have one. And every 10th book I sell, I donate one to a school. And it's on Amazon, but it's also on my website, businessintheblack.net. Come on, get you a copy today. Just a couple more housekeeping notes. I am making a movie from that book. It's titled They Did It. It should be out in the next couple months. Watch out for that. And it will be on national formats. I chronicle the lives of 12 rich Black people. And then I'm doing a children's book. Oh, I'm telling you, I ain't playing with you, my friends. I'm doing a children's book based on this so they can put it in them schools so them kids can understand this. And it's going to be very easy to read. And again, all that is on the website, businessintheblack.net. You hear me use this term strong a lot. Strong is my favorite word. I just like what strong stands for. And in my world, it's strength, tenacity, resilience, and a sense of oneness, nobility, and grace. And that is my introduction to the strong sister on the show today. Come on, lady, and introduce yourself. I am super excited that you're on with me.
Thank you so much. I'm just glad to be here.
Tell us your name.
My name is LaVon Bracy. I live in Orlando, Florida, and I work with Pastor Rhonda Thomas with Faith in Florida. I work as the democracy director for Faith in Florida.
Now, if I remember correct, on your email, it's got that DR in front. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Oh my God! Oh, I tell you, man, and the sister was so tough when she wrote that dissertation. They ain't even had to read it. They just said, "Come on, we know how tight you are." And so let me, before we get into the story, let me ask a couple questions about you
Surely.
personally. Where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Florida, in Boynton Beach, Florida, which is in South Florida. I was born there. My parents moved to St. Augustine, Florida, and from there they moved to Gainesville, Florida. So I am a native Floridian and been here most of my life.
Where is the plantation, the slavery in your family? Do you know that?
Yes, it came out of Georgia. Both my mom and my father uh, came from Georgia, and the my great grandmother uh, was raped by the master of the plantation, and they took on the name of Wright. The That is the name of the slave owner, and they moved from Georgia to Boynton Beach, Florida.
Okay. Now, how do you know that happened? How did you
I
hear
got that from I got the history from my grandmother.
was what did she able to elaborate, like he was a cruel guy,
Ye-
or he take care of the kids, any of that kind of thing?
No, he was not very kind. It was my great grandmother who was raped by the slave owner,
Yes.
and my grandmother is the one that passed the story on
Yeah,
to
yeah,
me.
yeah, sure. But how did she say that? Did she tell you how it happened? Is that the way it goes? Something like that, maybe?
Yeah, I mean it happened that way, and uh, and everybody knew that and she only had that one child, and the only child that she ever had was from the
Yeah.
master slave owner.
It,
Very
would you be
unfortunate.
interested in meeting his family? Have y'all ever thought of that?
No, we have not. No, no, we have not. That's a good question.
Because they're your cousins.
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And when I did ancestry.com, I have a whole lot of white folk that are part of my ancestry.
Oh, really?
Yes.
But I have had people on the show who said they would be and have met them.
Oh,
And there's been some dialogue, and they've even had reunions together because it's a fact of that's what happened.
that's what happened.
Yeah. And so as a result, she ended up having favor of some sort by him or people, do you know? And that encouraged her to get an education, or your mom or your grandmother, or anything. Was there any benefit to that, maybe, that you could
Uh,
tell?
not to my knowledge. My grandmother, when she moved to Boynton Beach, Florida, when she got married, she had 7 kids. And my grandmother did not go. I think she went to the 3rd grade.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she didn't. She didn't. My parents were very fortunate because my father and my mother both were able to go to college, and they were the very first in their families to attend college.
What, HBCU or something like that
Yeah,
somewhere?
my father my father and mother went to Florida Memorial College, which was in St. Augustine, Florida at the time. It's now since moved to Miami. And then my father went from there to Howard University to receive his seminary degree from Howard. And my
Oh.
mother received her master's from the University of Miami.
What and I like this, and I want people to understand this, and you've excelled as you have. What? How does somebody go from a third grade to tell their kids you're going to college? How do you
Well,
think that could happen?
my dad was determined that he was going to make life better for his children than life was for him. And my dad really didn't ever finish high school. He had to, when his father passed away, he dropped out of school and he had to help support the other siblings in the family. However, he went to the service. And when he came out of the service, the service was looking for persons that were interested in going to college that could use the GI Bill.
Oh,
And even though my dad had gone only to about seventh grade, he was always an avid reader. So he went to college and they told him that he could take this GED, which would take 3 years. And dad took the test in 3 months and passed the test.
oh,
So he never officially finished high school. He got a GED and he finished number one in his class from college. And then when he went to Howard, he finished with honors as well.
okay. So maybe we can say that GI Bill was one of the things that the government did that helped Black people.
Yeah, it helped my dad tremendously because he did not have he had no way of going to college, and when dad went to school, he had 4 children.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was able to excel in college, both undergrad and
Yeah,
graduate as
yeah,
well. And my
yes,
mother did the same.
yeah, sure. What now? You. I will just go into this just a tad. The neighborhood you grew up in, was it an all Black neighborhood?
Initially, it was when I lived in Boynton Beach and when I lived in St. Augustine, I lived in all Black neighborhoods. When we moved to Gainesville, my dad was the president of the NAACP, and we were the first family to integrate housing in Gainesville, Florida.
Was that scary?
Yes, it was. It was very scary. And they did everything they could not to sell a property to my family because they felt that it would be problematic. So initially they were told that the property was not available and my dad had to threaten to sue them in order to actually for us to move in to an all-white neighborhood.
Uh, him being president of, okay, hold on, all white neighborhood. How do you deal? Did they pick on you? Did they try to bully you and that kind of thing?
Not in the neighborhood. The neighborhood was decent merely because most of the people that lived in the neighborhood were professors from the University of Florida. And so we didn't have any major problems in the neighborhood. I remember when we moved in the neighborhood, one of the neighbors came over with a welcome package and they had made brownies and all sorts of things, cookies, and brought over to us. And I wouldn't let my parents eat it. I threw it all away. And I just told them I didn't trust it that it was really what it was supposed to be. So my
Oh
mother,
man,
yeah, mama says, I don't think that they would do that. I says, no, we can't take a chance. I'll make you some brownies and cookies.
yeah, because it was a white person that did it, evidently,
Absolutely. Yeah,
and you
right,
you was wondering what the motive was or something.
right. Yeah, so I threw it all out.
Okay, now how was you astute to know that white people weren't good people? When did you? Because I know your dad was an NAACP guy, so you heard a bunch of stories.
Well, I heard a bunch of stories, but let me briefly give you my story. We first initially lived in St. Augustine. While we were there, my dad and mom were uh, we went there for them to go to college. But my dad became president of the NAACP in St. Augustine. And he was considered a troublemaker because he continued to advocate for those who were the least of these. He talked about the fact that in St. Augustine, being the oldest city in the United States, they spent no resources in the Black community. He was always at the uh, meetings that they had for the council. He was always at school board meetings. And my mom at this time, after she graduated, she was a reading teacher. So dad was considered such a troublemaker. Those that were in power came to tell dad that if you don't stop advocating for people, it's going to affect your family. So sure enough, one day mom went to work and mom was told that because of her husband's advocacy, that she was no longer employed with the school system. So they fired her, uh, which was traumatic for the family. So mom had to find another job. She found a job in a place called Bunnell, which was about 35 miles away. So she had to get up very early in the morning to travel and be at work at 8 o'clock. She was again a reading teacher. That job lasted about a year. And the principal called her in again and says, the day is your last day because of what your husband is doing in St. Augustine. So mom really lost 2 jobs. And then from that, she gave my dad an ultimatum. If you don't stop with this NAACP, and if you don't stop trying to promote democracy for everybody, I'm going to leave you with my 4 children and leave you to fight this fight by yourself. But before we left St. Augustine, my dad and Dr. Haling, who was a dentist at the time, wrote a Martin Luther King to come to St. Augustine. He did come to St. Augustine, and things got worse rather than getting better. The Ku Klux Klan decided to burn a cross in front of our house.
Oh,
Yes, and I was very small, but I remembered it like it happened yesterday. And so my dad was a minister, and he called the
hold on,
deacons
let me
of the
stop you.
church.
I stop you. I mean no
Mhm.
disrespect. You look out the window and there's a cross burning on your
There,
grass.
there is a cross burning, and during those times, the beds were real high. So my brother and I decided, let's get under the bed. I don't know why we thought the bed would save us, because it looked like the house and the sky was on fire based on the kind of cross that was in front of our house. So dad called the deacons to come to try to put the fire out. Of course, you couldn't call the police because the police
Yeah,
were
yeah,
Ku Klux Klans.
yeah.
So he called them, and they put the fire out. And I mean, it was very unsettling for us. My brother and I really thought that we were going to die that night.
Why
Um,
did how come y'all didn't see him putting the cross on the grass? You know what I mean? It was in the middle of the night. They were
yeah, it
real
did.
quiet about
Yeah,
it.
they were very quiet. This was about midnight. The house was dark. We all were asleep, and what woke us up was this cross and the fire that was in front of our house. And so at that time, I couldn't go back to sleep, and no one else could. And my dad knew then that we had to find a place to leave St. Augustine. So he found Gainesville, Florida. We moved to Gainesville, Florida. They called him to a church to pastor in Gainesville. So we left St. Augustine by night. My mom instructed my brother and I to lay down in the car so that if the Ku Klux Klan was following us, they wouldn't see anybody but my dad in the car. So we moved to Gainesville. My mom asked my dad to promise that he would not join the NAACP and he would not try to advocate for anybody, and that we would live like normal human beings. My dad promised her that is the way our life would be in Gainesville. And I guess for 3 months it was, until one day we were going to church and this lady stopped us as we were entering the church, and she says, I am so delighted that Reverend Wright is now the president of the NAACP in Gainesville. We are going to turn Gainesville upside down. My mom was livid because she felt that here I am again in the same situation, and I'm going to lose my job again because of his advocacy. And Dad promised her he would do it 1 year. He really did it 18 years. So,
We talk about this is good stuff. We talk about from this perspective. We talk about people who, like they had the Selma Montgomery March and all those other, events. There were people who did not participate. They told them, "Don't, we ain't going down there because we know trouble."
right.
Is it? But something was special in him that says, I'm gonna go for this anyway. And my wife told me don't do it. What would be? I don't know. There's a question there. How does somebody say I'm not going to participate? I know it ain't right. How do you think that happens? That's one question.
Well, in my household, my dad would always tell us there ought to be something that's so important to you that you are willing to die for. And he'd always tell us that. And he always would say that what they are doing to Black people and marginalized people is not right. And somebody has to speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. And he felt that he was that vessel that had to speak up for those who could not speak up for themselves,
Were you
even
afraid?
at the risk if
Yeah.
it would cost them his life.
Were you afraid for him at times?
I was very afraid for Dad because Dad was about 6'3", and he spoke very well, and he did not bite his tongue, and he spoke truth to power.
Did you see white people come to his aid?
In Gainesville, well, let me share what happened in Gainesville. Dad said that he wanted to find out. This was in 1964. In 1954 was Brown versus the Board of Education. In 1964, the schools in Gainesville, Florida, were still segregated. So he went to the school board asking, when are you going to integrate the public schools? And so Dad was told it would probably be another 10 or 15 years because we are not going to abide by what the Supreme Court has stated. So Dad said, fine. So he filed a suit in behalf of himself and the NAACP suing the school board. The judge said that he won the suit, and he said that they had to integrate the public school system with all deliberate speed. So now Dad has to say, how are we going to integrate the school system? This is 1964. So he decided we're going to start with the high school, because if I start with high schools and get 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, I'll be able to have a graduation the very next year. So his strategy was he knocked on about 500 doors looking for parents that were willing to change their kid from the all-Black school to the all-white school. After talking to about 500 parents, he found two. He found a 10th grader and an 11th grader. At that time, I was a 12th grader. And so was my brother, a 12th grader. We were not twins. I skipped a grade and we were in the same grade.
I got you.
So I tried to tell my brother, I said, listen, Dad is so disgusted He spent hours and hours and hours talking to parents, and he only has two. Why don't you and I go to the all black white school? We'll be together, we'll have a good time. And my brother said to me, listen, I am very popular. I am part of the student council. I'm up in the band, and I have three girlfriends. Why would I leave my three girlfriends in an atmosphere that I'm well loved to go over there with those white folk who don't want me there? And he said, I'm not going to do it. He said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry dad is upset. I'm sorry dad is not feeling well because of all of the effort. I'm sad. I'm sad that he's sad, but I'm not going to do it. So I knew that two people and not having a senior, I went to my dad and told him, here I am, send me. I'll go to the all-white school. My mother was livid. She did not want me to do it. And my dad said, I cannot ask other parents to do what I'm not willing to do myself.
Wow.
So I was going, it was three of us, a 10th grader, 11th grader, and a 12th grader, going to the all-white Gainesville High School. Well, 2 weeks before school was to start, the FBI came to the house and asked my dad to postpone the integration for about 3 to 5 years because they had surveyed Gainesville. Gainesville was toxic. They were not ready for us to make that move. And dad says the Supreme Court gave them 10 years and they didn't do nothing. He said, I'm not about to say no. I'm not about to do what you're asking me. We will integrate the school system this year. So when my mom heard that, she was saying, oh, this is not looking well. What we were told by the FBI that they could not guarantee our safety because it was just too dangerous. So my dad had to agree that he would take every morning all three of us to school and he would pick us up every day. I had to agree that I would not try to participate in any activities. I would not go to any football games, basketball games. I had to agree that I wouldn't try to
To
go
who? Him, your dad, or to the school?
to the school. I had to agree that I would not go to any
Yeah,
football,
yeah, yeah.
basketball. I wouldn't go to a prom. I wouldn't go to the class trip, that I wouldn't participate in anything because the FBI said that they could not guarantee safety if there was a large congregation
Yeah.
of white kids. So we had,
But I guess my question is, you had to say that to your father. I'll live like this, or you told the school, okay, let me in, and I'm not going to do these things.
no, we agreed that that's what we would do. I agreed that I would not try to participate in anything.
Okay.
And so the day before school was to start, was very unsettling because I couldn't sleep that night because I didn't really know what the next day would be like. Got up very early. I was ready for school 2 hours ahead of time. And mom got up early, fixed me a big breakfast before she was to go to her job. And I was so nervous I couldn't eat. I just drank some orange juice. Mom had prayer with me and she said to me, when you go to school, remember this will probably be the hardest job that you'll ever have in your life. And remember to kill them with kindness. They aren't good to you. You just be good to them. And so I got in the car with the other two, and every day we would have two police to escort us to school, one in the front of the car and one in the back of the car. And the first day we got to school, Dad had prayer with us, and he said, have a good day. The 10th grader went to her class. The 11th grader went to his class. And I proceeded to go to my class, and I was stopped by about 7 or 8 white kids. They surrounded me. They told me they did not want me there, that they would not make history by having me in their yearbook and having me graduate with them, and that since I was not welcome, that I needed to turn around and leave their all-white school. And I proceeded to continue to walk. They called me the N-word. They spit on me. And I went to my class. I sat on the first row of the class. And when I sat down, the entire class got up and went to the other side. And the teacher said, "Why are you standing?" And they said, "We would rather stand than sit by the N-word." So she said, "You don't have to sit by her. You can just stand." So every day that I went to school, they spit on me. I'd get to my class. In my seat would be tacks. Under my seat would be dead roaches, dead rats, dead snakes, and I'd get vicious letters that they were going to kill me that day, that this would be the last day I had on earth. Now, the hardest thing to do in that year was to navigate when to go to the restroom. I know that when classes changed, I could not stop by the bathroom because I would be attacked. So I'd have to go to my class, ask for a pass, run to the bathroom, and run back before anybody would know that I had left. So then I had to watch my liquid intake. So I tried to watch my liquid intake so that I would not go to the restroom more than once a day. So every day was, every day got harder and harder. And when I'd get back to the car and Daddy would ask, "How was my day?" my response would always be, "I survived." I did not want the 10th and the 11th grader to know what was happening to me, because my class took a pact. We don't want to make history. They didn't bother the 10th and the 11th grader to the extent I was
Oh,
bothered.
really? Oh, okay.
And because my if I graduated, then that means that I'd be the first, and my class, which would be the class of 65, would be the class that would have a black in the yearbook, that would have a black in a gown walking with them. And so they did everything that they possibly could to make sure that that did not happen. So it even got worse. On one day, uh, they 6 boys decided, let's just get rid of her. She comes every day. We put the tax, we put the nasty notes, and she still comes. So this day I went to school. Uh, they decided to attack me. They beat me profusely,
Oh,
and
really?
yes.
Hold on.
And
Where did this happen at? On the in the building? And
no. What happened during that time? You all stayed outside until the bell rang. You couldn't come into class until the
yeah,
bell rang.
yeah,
So it was on the outside.
yeah.
And I was saved really by the bell, because when the bell rang, I was on the floor, on the ground, I was bleeding, and everybody passed by me. Nobody offered to help me. So I waited until everybody was in the classes. I stumbled into the principal's office and I asked the principal, could I use the phone? And he says, no. And I said, well, I've been attacked. I mean, you could see the blood coming from everywhere.
Wow.
And the principal said, how do I know you didn't leave home like that? I didn't see anybody attack you. And if by chance it happens, it ought to tell you and your parents that we don't want you here. You
Wow.
need to go where you belong. Now, this was well before cell phones. During that
Yeah.
time, you had the red booths with payphones, and you'd put 10 cents in the payphone. So I stumbled across the street to the payphone, called my dad, and told him I had been beaten. The dad came and picked me up, took me to the only Black doctor in town. And the Black doctor says, "Oh, you have been beaten pretty badly." So the doctor stitched me up. I have stitches from the front of my head to the back of my head from that incident. And the doctor said to me, Dr. Banks says, you need to go home, stay home for a week or two because your body needs to heal. So as I left the doctor's office, I told Dad, I said, I don't think I'm going back. I said, I'm going on back to the all Black school. He said, you don't have to go back. So I went home and I stayed about 4 days. And on that fifth day, I told Dad, take me back to school.
Wow.
And
Wow.
he says, take me
Wow.
back to school. I thought you weren't going back there.
Wow.
I said, Dad, the reality is if I don't go back, they win and I lose. I can't afford to let them win. And if they kill me, they just kill me. I'm going back.
You 16,
I'm
17?
16. I am 16 years old. And I went back. They redoubled their efforts. They did everything they could possibly think of to make sure that I did not graduate. And they threatened, they put letters out. Well, we didn't kill her then, but we're going to kill her at graduation. So they did all they possibly could. So on graduation day, my brother and I have graduations on the same day at the same time. So mine graduation is going to be at the University of Florida. His graduation is going to be at the Black school in the auditorium. And I told my parents, let's all go to my brother's graduation. Let's not go to my graduation. And Mom says, all the hell you've been through, you are going to watch. And so my dad went to mine and my mom went to my brother's graduation. I was so afraid at graduation that they were going to be able to do what they have always said they were going to kill me. But when I got to the graduation, my dad and we saw police cars everywhere. And I didn't know if the police cars were there because they knew of the threat or because we were at the University of Florida and they didn't want any problems at the first graduation of the first Black to graduate from a public school. So when I got there, Dad says, go on and get in the line. And I was really afraid because they had always said that they were going to kill me that night. But there were so many police around. I got in the line. I was able to sit in my seat without any tacks. I was able to look under my seat and didn't find any dead roaches or rats. And I was able to walk across the stage without any confrontation. And I graduated in 1965 as
Oh
the
my
only
God.
Black to graduate from Gainesville High School.
Did anybody come to your aid?
And,
Like another student or
let me
teacher or
and,
anything, a white
and
person at
let me
any
tell,
point in time?
let me just tell you, my class had 540 students. I know zero by name. I didn't get one kid that had come to me to say, I want to be your friend. I didn't have one kid that says, good morning. The teachers even tried to make sure that I did not do well. they would give me, I had an English teacher that would take my classes, my work, and just put an F on it and would not put any remarks or anything. And so my dad said to me, we're going to get her the next time. He knew the head of the English department at the University of Florida. So the next paper he had me to write, my dad had it edited at the university. She put an F on that paper. So when my dad and I met with the principal said, he doesn't question what his teacher does, and he supports the teacher. So I was just doing F work. Well, if they could have flunked me out that year, they would have. But I transferred with like a 3.8 average. So their D's and F's could not stop me from having a 2 or 2.5 or 3
Oh, I see. I
graduate.
see. Oh
But
yeah.
if they could have, they would have,
I see.
because they just didn't want me there. And what I learned from that experience, number one, I survived by being silent. Didn't know any of my classmates. They all knew me. I did not know them. But I promised myself, if I graduated from that school, I would never, ever be silent again. And I would always speak for those who could not speak for themselves, because I knew what it was like to be isolated. I knew what it was like to be marginalized. And I knew what it was like to be in the midst of racism, because I didn't just think about it, I saw it. I saw it experience. And then I know for kids to teach other kids like that, hate is taught. It's a learned behavior. Their parents had to sit down at the dinner table and say, that Black girl, make sure you make her life miserable. Make sure you let her know that she's not welcome. Those kids didn't just do that. They were taught that.
Um, okay, so was there ever a happy day?
At school, no, never. If I go to the library, I'd get the whole library by myself. Everybody would leave. If I would go to the lunchroom, I'd have the whole lunchroom by myself. So it was just like they all took a pact. Let's not befriend her. Let's make her life so much hell that she wished that she never, ever had come to this school. I mean, you're talking about total isolation. It was total isolation. And in fact, the reality was I was isolated not only from whites, but from blacks too, because I lost my black friends because my black friends thought that I felt that I was better than they were
I was gonna
because
ask
I
you
was
that. Yeah.
going because I was going to the white school. So they didn't want anything to do with me. The white kids would not befriend me because they didn't want me there. So I was in total isolation. Uh, it was difficult Monday through Friday. Then on the weekends, I just talked to my brother and my mom and dad because my friends that I had no longer wanted to be my friends because they saying, she's stuck up down because she's over there with the white folk. Total isolation.
Did you go? So you didn't go to the prom or nothing, did you?
Oh no, I didn't go to the prom. Now what I wasn't allowed to go. It was too dangerous. I didn't go to the senior class trip. Didn't go to anything. Had no involvement whatsoever.
What this is the Little Rock line
Yes,
is 10 years before this.
yes, it was before this.
Have you? Do they know of you? And like I had the telephone number to what's the guy? And I can't think of his name. He was one of them that he's still alive, and he was a
Yeah,
financial guy.
yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I can't think
So,
of his name, but I had his telephone number. Um,
so from this experience, I decided I wrote a children's book, and I called the children's book "A Brave Little Cookie," because when I grew up, my nickname was Cookie, and my mom says I was like a chocolate chip cookie, so everybody called me Cookie. But I wanted kids to know that they might have obstacles in their lives, and they need to know that they can be strong, they can be successful, and they could survive anything that might happen to them. So I tell my story so that children will understand that life will not always be a bed of roses, but you can make it. You can be successful. You can get over whatever hurdle that comes your way. So I'm sure with
you have a copy of the book there that we can see it?
I don't know if you can
Yeah,
see.
there it is. Just tilt
Yeah,
it down. Yeah,
that,
there it is.
yeah,
Yep, yep,
yeah.
yeah,
A brave little cookie.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
I did that so that I wanted to motivate and inspire children to let them know that they can be conquerors.
So after this, when you graduate, did your parents have a party for you? Did y'all? I mean, you and your brother, did they were they able to have people come by and celebrate that kind of?
Yeah,
Did
it
you have a
was.
graduation
Uh,
party?
No, well, my dad being a minister, so the I didn't have a party of as such, but I had a lot of wishes from
Yeah,
the church. So my dad says, "Well, now that you've done that, why not you go to the University of Florida?" Well, the University of Florida had only been integrated for about 2 or 3 years, and I said, "Dad, I'm not going to do that." I said, I need to go to a school where that I am in the majority and not a
yeah, I
minority.
love it. I love it. I can
So,
appreciate
so I went to Fisk University
that. Yeah,
from high school,
yeah,
and it gave me a great opportunity to heal, a great opportunity to get some real friends that have been friends for life.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Sure, sure. Do has there been have you received it? Have you been back to that school? How about that?
surprisingly, um, when the 40th anniversary of Brown versus Board of Education, I was invited back to speak to the students. And as I told the students my story, um, the school at that time probably was 50-50. And you could see the whole school just being silent. And so many of the white kids you could see were just crying. And afterwards, so many of them would come up and say, my grandmother was in your class. My aunt was in your class. I apologize
Oh,
for the way,
really?
yeah, for the way that they treated you. And so,
Is that an example of how far we've come for somebody to apologize about that?
yeah,
You get some of that in there?
well, the kids, those kids that I talked to, did not have really a clue. Now, and I was invited by the student government last year to go back to the school. So I've been invited
Yeah,
twice.
yeah, yeah.
And when I went back last year, a few reporters followed me back. The school system was on edge with me coming because of the governor and all of these ridiculous laws that we've passed in the state of Florida.
Yeah,
One being that they don't want any history being taught that you make people feel uncomfortable.
yeah, yeah.
Well, you know, they made me feel a whole lot uncomfortable, but this is a true story. So
Sure,
I
sure.
went back and shared my story with the students at that time. And It was in the auditorium. There was standing room on it. There were students everywhere. And they had no clue of my story. And
Does that make it worth it? What at the end, after it happened and you can heal and whatnot, the bandages and then what have you, does what you went through make it worth it in your mind?
well, it makes it worth it in my mind because I knew that there would be generations behind me that I needed to have a success story. And I did not need to have a failure story. I did not need to say that I could not endure. I could not make it. I had to quit because I'm trying to tell young folk now, regardless of the circumstances, you can't afford to quit. And I could not have in my story that I could not succeed and I had to quit. So it's worth it.
Uh, do you have nightmares going by the school, or any of that kind of thing, or is it? I mean, it's many years later. Understanding,
Well,
has all this subsided in your mind? What's that?
well, some, there are certain things that I just really can't look at on TV. I never was able to look at Roots. And I'm never able to look at things where I see uh, a whole lot of abuse of people because it affects me and it puts me in a place that I really don't want to be. But and see, I understand racism. I've been experienced. I've experienced it uh, in terms of my own life, and from that, I have been an advocate all of my life to protect democracy and to make sure that those who cannot speak for themselves has to have an advocate. And so I have been for the last 50 years trying to make certain that I know that the space that the Lord has given me, that I am here to make the world better for somebody. And that's what I've tried to do.
God had His hand on you in the 12th grade.
Yes, he did.
Because
Yes,
when they were beating you pretty bad. They were
they
beating you
did.
to really try to kill you,
They were.
maybe.
They were. They were.
Did
And they knew that, the police wouldn't come out. They knew that the police would not uh, arrest white guys for beating up a black girl. So they knew that.
did you know who did it? You know who
No,
they were and all that other stuff.
no, number one, I don't know any. I didn't know any of the names of any of the
Yeah.
kids at my school. So I don't know them by name. And surprisingly, they have tried. My school had a 25th anniversary, a 50th, a 55 anniversary for students to come back. They have tried to get me to come back to the class reunions. I mean, they tried in terms
Yeah.
of uh, they had an email group that would email me and that send me all of the information. I've had some of the classmates to send emails and says, I apologize that I did not stand up
Oh,
for what
really?
was
Okay.
happening to you. But
Okay.
if you would come back, uh, I promise you that we will protect you and that will not happen to you. But I have not seen the need to return or to be a part of that because I just don't want to be reminded in that fashion of those
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
And so I would be uncomfortable. So I'm at the point now, I'm not going to do anything that's going to make me uncomfortable.
Yeah. Sure.
So
Have you had to have as we come to a close here? Have you had to have any psychological help to overcome this, or anything to make you whole and not
Well,
hate white people? Let's call it that.
well, my parents and ministers have really had to work with me in terms of, because when I left high school, I left with a sense of hate of white folks. And I just had to understand that there are some vicious, mean Caucasians out there, but there are some that are honestly good people who understand that slavery was not right, who understand that they owe a debt to those of my ancestors who were mistreated. So I can't put them all in a box. At that time, I was young and I put them all in a box. And I understand that there are some that want to do the right thing.
Has the these keep coming up. Has the city of Gainesville honored you? Is there a day in your honor or anything like that? Is your picture in the school or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, they did a mural of all three of us in terms of that is in the school.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
yes, and they wanted to have uh at the homecoming, they wanted to have only two of us are still living. They wanted to have us to come back, and they wanted to have the mayor there and have a big celebration. But COVID came,
Okay. Okay.
and so that has not happened. But the mural is there.
You took this and went to undergrad, went to
Yeah.
grad, and got your doctorate. You are a big success behind this. When they didn't, I don't know how much you learned in the 12th grade because you was, scared every day and you heard the teacher, but you're looking to see what they're doing. You kept going.
I had to.
Yeah, you kept going.
I had to because I have to be able to tell generations that are behind me. It's an obstacle, but you can get around it, you can get under it, you can get through it, and that's what we have to do.
Excuse me. My last one more question. So this happened to you by happenstance. The circumstances with your dad and all this, and then it just okay. I'll do it. Is that kind of how it went? But then you heard what he was doing and how mom felt, and other than that, and you said I'm gonna be this way anyway. So if it wasn't this, it might have been something else that led you to
Correct.
be this kind of person. I guess is
Um,
my question.
yeah, and it had not been the integration of the school system, it would have been something else because I listened always to my parents, but I listened to how I knew how hard my dad worked to make things better. And as I said before, Dad always said there ought to be something in this world that you're convicted to the point that you're willing to die for. And I got to the point that I'm going to graduate from school, even if it has to kill me.
Mm. Do you have a website? How do people follow you and get the book and that kind of thing?
The book is on my website, bravelittlecookie.com.
Okay. Uh,
Bravelittlecookie.com.
uh, wow. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for
Making me
having
cry.
me.
I can't help it.
Yeah.
I got an icon in front of me. I can't help it. I got an icon. Um, everybody, uh, strong inspirations. I'm here for this reason. I'm here for this reason. And somebody tells me about people like her. And now we have it chronicled in video where you can hear this and watch this from now on. You can hear this story. You can feel her passion. And thank you for coming on my show.
Thank you for having me.
Uh, uh,
Thank you.
everybody hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. There is no love button. Hit the notifications bell. Tell somebody about Strong Inspiration. We're going to keep giving it to you. Straight no chase. We're going to give you these as we can find it, these kind of stories. Buy her book. Make it a bestseller. Please go to her website. It'll be in the description. And sister, keep fighting that fight as you see fit.
Thank you.
And I say this with all sincerity. I want you to stay strong, stay safe, stay on your grind. I love what you've done for strangers, for people who don't even know, who don't appreciate, who want to be like, why you uppity and all that other stuff. I'm uppity because I'm helping you and your kids who might want to go to that school because the school was better, I'm sure. When you got in that building was elaborate, I can imagine.
Yes.
Those books were top-notch books.
They were.
Teachers were not better teachers, I ain't going to say that. But you know the differences when they fund money in and stuff. You saw those things. Food might even have been better, I guess.
Right.
So on and so forth. And you took the mantle and did this, and thank you for that. I say it on my behalf and those others. And we're gonna do what we can to let people see and hear this video throughout the country and America and the world. Thank you again.
Thank you for having
Love
me.
you for this.
Thank you.
I'll meet you. I'm coming down. I'm gonna meet you.
All right.
And any last words, anything that a Bible verse, or anything like that that you want to share?
Thank you so much for having me on this. And the Bible says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that's been my motto, is trying to make sure that when I am no longer in this space, that I believe that the world would be better because I was here. And so I just believe it's our responsibility to do all we can with the space that we occupy, that the Lord has given us.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Be blessed.
You too.